Hey everyone, I realize it's been 3 months since I did my last video, and I've had trouble finding time to sit down and make a video um, and keep everyone updated as to what happened in my child custody case. So I am a licensed cosmetologist in the state of California. I did get my license, and right after I got my license is when I got pregnant with Caitlin in 2008. Now, during the time I was in school, I'd actually gotten pregnant one time before, and I miscarried that one. But between my third child and Caitlin is 18 years, 2 months to the day. So I wasn't looking to have any more kids because it had been so long. And I'd always been really careful. Now, I didn't have any insurance, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I really couldn't afford birth control. But, I did a different type of method in not getting pregnant, but it happens. And I took responsibility, and it's not like I gave her up or aborted her or anything. Couldn't do that. No, just one of God's children can't do that. So I ended up getting pregnant after I got my license, and it was right after Thanksgiving in 2008 when I found out I was pregnant. And I had just started working in a shop, and I was working in the same shop as Hair by Jose. Now, he had one of the very first salons in Modesto, believe it or not, one of the very first salons in that city. And so working with him was actually a great honor because he used to do the hair for Dean Martin. If everybody knows who Dean Martin is, he's the entertainer, part of the Rat Pack. It was Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra. And so he's one of those. And Jose used to do his hair back in the 50s and the 60s. Jose started out in Hollywood, and he had been, a hairstylist for over 50 years. So I was really lucky to get to know him. And he had a wife who ran Bangles, Tangles, and Chocolates. It was not a trendy store, but it was a unique store. And she sold odds and ends and had the hair salon. Well, come to find out, after I started working there, I really wanted to do nails. I didn't really want to do hair. I was mostly going to do nails. And so that was my goal. But he was looking for someone to take over all his clients because he was getting to where he didn't want to do it anymore. He's up there in his 80s, and, he'd been doing it for 50 years. So I wanted to take over his clients. That's the reason why I even applied for the ad, and I found them on Craigslist. So I applied, and I went and met her, and it seemed like it was a good fit. And he wanted someone to take over his clients. So I was like, okay, hey, that's cool. I could do that. So, I met with them and looked at their shop, and it was a really cool shop. Like I said, it wasn't trendy, but it was just an old-fashioned kind of thing. And they even had a Christmas cottage in the back. And so I thought, okay, I could learn a lot from this guy because he'd been in the business a long time and been there, done it kind of thing. It's like, I could learn a lot. And matter of fact, one of his clients, the wives, her husband's a pediatrician. And it turns out her husband was a pediatrician when my other children were younger. And it's like Dr. Ronald Goldman. And he's one of the top-notch pediatric doctors in Stanislaus County. And he was my kids' pediatrician when they were younger. And it's like, oh my God, even as Kelly was older, in her teens, she was still going to Dr. Goldman. And when I had Caitlin, because of my insurance, she couldn't go to Dr. Goldman. We had the wrong kind of insurance. We just didn't have what they took. And I was like, okay, well, I had to find somebody else. And I did. But it was really sad because my kids had gone to Goldman for years. And it was like, oh my God, it was so cool that they were one of his clients. But after I got my license and started working in the salon, I found out I was pregnant. And so I worked there briefly. I was trying to do his clients, and I was queen of the perms. I could do a perm like nobody's business, and I can roll a head of hair, perm rods and all. And I was like the quickest. I mean, I could do it. And they would always come out really good. But his clients were doubting me because I'm young, I guess, and they'd been with him for so long, for over 30 years. He had these clients for over 30 years. Well, when somebody new comes in, it's a little different. So they were doubting my ability to, take care of their hair needs and stuff. So it made it very hard, but I was more wanting to do nails. So I was trying to design that in their shop. But Roger had made me a table that was way larger than what I had asked for. he made me this really big table, and it took up a lot of space. And so that caused a lot of conflict between me and his wife. And so once I got pregnant, I started having a lot of back problems and hip issues, which I still have today because of it. I ended up quitting the shop and taking a hiatus from doing hair until after I had my baby, because early on I started having a lot of problems with my hips. And so I was still on unemployment. I was still able to look for work. So I continued my unemployment till like my 8th month of pregnancy. And they were handing out all these extensions back in 2007, 2008, because of the economy had taken a dump big time. And so being as I wasn't able to work, I was living off my unemployment, and Roger was doing whatever it is he was doing on the side. I'd already discussed what he was doing on the Home Depot thing. Go watch the past videos. So with that said, I took the hiatus and I basically took it easy. Not so much bed rest, but I was a high risk pregnancy because of my age. I was over the age of 40. Well, 39 when I got pregnant. But during my pregnancy, Roger did a 360 on me. He went from being who he was to somebody I didn't even recognize. Now, Roger was also a drug user at the time, throughout our whole relationship. I mean, from day one of our relationship till I ended it, he was a drug user. He shot meth, and I mean with a needle. And once we split, I found needles all over the garage and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, this was worse than I had anticipated. But once I got pregnant, he did a 360 on me, and he treated me the worst I had ever been treated in my life. The worst. My 40th birthday was one day after my youngest daughter graduated high school. Her dad actually showed up. Now, her dad was in poor health. He was a full-blown diabetic. He couldn't walk. He was on water pills, so they always had to stop for the restroom because water pills make you go to the bathroom. Well, he was there, and we were taking pictures in the end. I was on one side, Kelly was on the other, and Steve was in the middle. Well, I put my arm around Steve because I was holding myself up because of my hip problems with my pregnancy. Well, Roger took it the wrong way, blew everything out of proportion. Oh, you had your arm around him and everything else. It's like, no, I didn't. I was holding myself up with the back of the chair is what I was doing. But point being, I was there for my daughter's graduation, not there to go lovey-dovey on my ex. That's not why I was there. And that's the only picture Kelly really has of me and her dad together, is that graduation picture. I don't even know if she still has it. I'm pretty sure she does. But point being is, Roger blew things out of proportion. This is what people do when they're on drugs. They blow things out of proportion. My whole pregnancy, everything was blown out of proportion. The next day after Kelly's graduation, my 40th birthday, was the worst birthday I had ever had in my entire life. Now, I don't celebrate my birthday, and I really don't. I really don't even acknowledge it. But I do celebrate them on TikTok and have a lot of fun doing it. And it's really great to do it. So it's bringing a lot of joy back into my life doing my TikToks. That's why I'm doing my YouTube, and I'm making this video a little longer than my other videos because I need to put more in them than what I'm doing. So my 40th birthday came, and it was the worst birthday. Kelly had just graduated. I called her up. I was crying, telling her, Roger was being an ass again and just having a hard time. So she came and picked me up, and we went out to the mall. We went to lunch and had a really nice day. And we ended up going into the Disney store and got 2 Pooh Bears. And she says, Caitlin will always be with you as long as you've got these 2 Pooh Bears. Well, I still have the same Pooh Bears. They're Winnie the Pooh. They're in all her stuff I packed up because she's not coming back home. So I've packed up my daughter's room with everything that's going on, and all her stuff's out in the garage. That was hard to do. I'll get to that later. But in the meantime, my 40th birthday came, and it was horrible. And, I think he felt kind of bad after I got home. He'd bought me a cake and stuff, and it's like, a cake isn't what I wanted. What I wanted was just to be loved and, to have appreciation. I'm pregnant of all things, and to treat me like shit. It was like that my whole pregnancy. He would try to make up for it, but it's not the same. And, my spirits kind of went downhill, and the rest of my pregnancy was just pretty much, I spent in depression. I'd either spend weekends in bed, not get out, and do things. And my daughter would come over for her visits. I'd be in bed, the whole weekend. And, And I wanted him to take the hospital tour with me. He refused to do the hospital tour. And I said, well, if you're not going to do the hospital tour, you're not going to be in there when I'm delivering. Kelly went with me. She took the tour with me. It's the same hospital she was born in. My first two were born in one hospital, and Kelly and Caitlin were born at Doctor's Medical Center on Orangeburg in Modesto. So my two youngest were born at that hospital. And my mother was also in that hospital when she had gotten sick too. And I thought she died at that hospital, but I was told she died at another hospital. See how much my memory is. So anyway, Kelly took the tour with me. So we took the tour, and it was actually pretty good. And so, you know, then it was just the point of waiting for Caitlin to be born. And I was just biding my time and, you know, just taking it easy because of the issues I was suffering with my back. And, you know, finally when I did have her, Kelly took me to the hospital. Her dad was in bed, refused to get up and take me to the hospital. I was in labor. I'd been in labor most of the night. And this is July 31st. So after midnight was when my contractions really started to get heavy. And I went into labor. And I was only in labor like 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, about 6 hours. Went into the hospital about 10 and I had her at 1:05. So my contractions were most of the night. And they really got severe. And then when they got really bad, I had Kelly take me because Caitlin's dad refused to get out of bed and take me to the hospital. And it's like, this was the kind of person I was dealing with. And once I had Caitlin, I ended up being in the hospital all weekend by myself. Once Caitlin's delivery was over, and I ended up going into shock where I was shaking so bad because Caitlin had gotten stuck coming out. Her shoulders had gotten wedged on my pelvic bone. And it was like hell trying to push her out. And it seemed like forever. It really wasn't, but it just seemed like it was. But my body went into shock afterwards. I was cold and shaking and just trembling. And Caitlin turned out to be a healthy, almost 9-pound baby, 21 inches long. She was like 8 pounds, 14 ounces. She was a big baby. So she got stuck coming out. But, and then I was in the hospital a whole weekend by myself. Kelly, I ended up calling on Sunday, 2 days later. I didn't hear from Roger, nothing from him. Kelly, I called because he needed to come and pick me up and to sign the birth certificate. And he ended up sleeping. He was coming off his drugs and he was sleeping. So Kelly had to go to our house and wake his ass up to come and get me. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like, I'd been calling and calling and calling and calling for 2 days. Nothing from him. And the day before we went home, I had my tubes tied. I wasn't having any more kids. I was done. I was finished. No more. So I had my tubes tied after that. And that was planned. I'd had that planned for 9 months. Once I found out I was pregnant, had her, that was it. I was done. I had my tubes tied. Finished. No more kids. And I can't have any more kids. And I don't want any more kids. It's like, I couldn't have another kid even if I wanted to. My body wouldn't be able to handle another pregnancy. Carrying all that weight. I haven't even lost all my weight from having Caitlin. I'm still got my gut. My tummy never went down. Oh, breastfeeding, they say. Breastfeed your baby, they say. It's a good thing, they say. Yeah, it's a good thing, but not when you're 40 years old and the shit don't want to come off. So I've never had my waistline back. My waistline went to hell being pregnant. So that's the start of the end of my relationship. Is 2009 when I had Caitlin and what escalated from there. So I'm gonna leave my story there. Yep, it's a little longer than normal because I needed to put a little bit more in there. So that's what I'm gonna do from now on to add a little bit more detail is make a longer video. So I will pick up with what happened after he finally showed up at the hospital. Have a good one, everyone.